I thought I'd return back to my hit list of videos that I drew up with regards to a list of videos that have been requested by you guys from suggestions from me and from yourselves as well. But the next video in the series is concerning lag. It's not a very exciting subject, and I don't actually suspect it will take me long to go through it really, but I just thought I'd explain what I appreciate about it, and actually how important it is, and certainly in the current climate of TVs that you can buy, it's probably one of the areas that people aren't fully aware of and perhaps don't fully appreciate. But the more and more that you play games that are quite time sensitive, really, certainly as regards to bullet hell shooters, it can cause problems. And certainly when you start to use scalers as well, external scalers, that can either increase or decrease the issue. And certainly depending on what type of TV you've got, you could, unbeknowing, have a TV that is pretty crap at actually dealing with reduction of lag and actually increases your lag even more. For the purpose of this video, I will only be talking about video processing or video lag, as opposed to controller lag, which is another type of lag, and I'll probably talk about that in a future video. But this video is purely about video processing or video lag, or input lag, if you want to call it as such, even though I get slightly confused when people say input lag, because I actually refer to input lag as being controller lag, because I think control is an input. But anyway, that's by the by. Right, so what is video lag, and also how can we try and minimise video lag? I think they're the two sort of key questions really that I need to answer as part of this video. So as regards to what is video lag or video processing lag, basically when you output a video signal from a games console, and we'll just I know, for argument's sake, we will say let's say Dreamcast. So you output a video signal from a Dreamcast, and it's actually irrelevant what type of console it is, as far as I'm aware. It would be the same for any type of console. But let's just take Dreamcast, and let's just assume that Dreamcast is going to be connected to a TV direct via RGB SCART lead, which certainly for people in the UK and Europe would be perhaps the preferred method, or one of the most common methods. I know the Dreamcast is slightly different because you probably prefer to use VGA, but we'll come on to that in a second. Let's assume RGB SCART analog signal, obviously, connected to a TV. Let's also assume that the TV has got an RGB SCART input on it, which most TVs still currently have at the moment. Now, if you had this plugged into a CRT TV, not an LCD, plasma or LED, so not a HD, what I'd call a HD set, certainly not a current gen HD set. So you plugged it into an old style CRT TV, you'll be pretty much guaranteed that you'll get absolutely zero processing lag. Excuse me. CRTs are renowned in reality for not processing the image in any way, shape or form. It will display whatever its input, and actually the cleaner the signal, the better the actual display of that signal. So if it was SCART RGB, which is one of the best inputs you can have on a CRT TV, it would be the most clearest it can be, and it will be as good as, damn it, virtually zero processing lag. I'm not actually sure whether CRTs do have some minor amount of processing lag, but but if they do, or not processing lag, but lag, but if they do, it is so minimal you would never ever appreciate it. It doesn't matter what game you're playing. So in that scenario, that would be utopia really. But of course CRTs have disappeared and we don't get them anymore, or they're very hard to get hold of. People don't want them in their homes, so they've moved to LCDs, LEDs, plasmas, etc. Now of course you can still have the SCART input on a plasma or an LCD or an LED at the moment, SCART RGB input, and if you connected your console up to that input, SCART RGB, the TV itself would have to process the image in some way, shape or form, whether it's because current gen panels aren't 15 kilohertz compatible, and again if you go through some of various videos I'll go through this. Because it's not 15 kilohertz compatible, it will effectively mean that the TV will only read or only accept an interlaced image via SCART, for instance, RGB SCART. It won't take a 240p image, so even if your Dreamcast is outputting the 240p image, and some games did, or some games could, your TV won't see that. It will actually see the 480i image, which is 480 lines interlaced, and it will have to deinterlace that picture, or that image, that signal, because current technology can't effectively display an interlaced picture. It has to make it progressive, so it will take a 480 interlaced picture and it will make it into a progressive picture. That means it's got to process the image. It'll also do some scaling as well, and it could do all sorts of other different filtering depending on what type of functionality you've got switched on the TV as regards to certain types of filtering, and you know, modern TVs can do all sorts of different things to try and make the image better. But of course they're adding processing, which will add a lag to what effectively to you pressing a button on the control pad and it actually doing what it needs to do on the screen. And the gaming console would have picked up the movement that you put in on your control pad, and it would move the ship, say, left, but the time it takes for the actual ship on the screen to move left, there's a delay because of the processing involved by the TV. Now, that is, simplistically put, that is basically what video processing lag is. So it's the time it takes for your console or your source device to actually send the picture through to the screen. Now obviously when you're playing a game, you want that to be instantaneous, so when you move, again, I mean this is assuming you've got no controller lag, which you shouldn't have, but again that's another ball game and I don't want to go down that, but let's assume you've got no controller lag. So it's the time it takes for that, for your console to recognise that you've done something on your control pad and for it to send the video image through to your TV, for your TV to display it. And there can be lag throughout that process of your TV set receiving the video image and actually displaying it on the screen. So that's the base principle really of processing lag. Now lag is normally measured in milliseconds, and basically 16 milliseconds of lag, which doesn't sound a lot, but 16 milliseconds of lag equates to 1 frame of video. Yeah? Now 16 milliseconds, it's debatable that you would actually notice 16 milliseconds or a frame. You may not notice 2 frames of lag, 32 milliseconds, and depending on what type of game you play. If you were playing something like, let's think of a time-sensitive game, something like, and this is obviously isn't on Dreamcast, but I don't think you get these types of games on Dreamcast, but if you think about Guitar Hero, that is timing critical and sensitive. And normally those types of games will give away massive amounts of lag as regards to making it obvious if they exist or not. So they're a pretty good game to actually test whether or not your setup's got a lot of lag in it. So 2 frames of delay, yeah, okay. You're perhaps bordering, certainly as regards to noticing it for things like, you know, Guitar Hero, some of that are really time sensitive. You may not. But when you start to go to 3, 4 or 5 frames delay, which you can quite easily go to, believe it or not, depending on the type of TV you've got, the type of input using the TV, how you're processing your signal, if you're processing it at all or whatever, is you can actually, you know, quite easily without really knowing it, you can bump into those types of lag time frames, which are seriously not good. I mean, they're really not. Especially if you're into bullet hell type shooters or those more timing critical games, things like RPGs or adventure games or that very slow moving type of game, you will probably be alright, it's not a problem. But for the more time sensitive games, it can become more of a problem. Some people adapt to it, they sort of intelligently aren't aware that they're adapting to it, they adapt to it as regards to what they expect to come on the screen. Perhaps they preempt a move on the controller, but obviously the more the time delay, the more the lag, the harder it is to try and preempt it, so you actually tend to notice it more. And you'll probably find on your setup now you've got lag and you perhaps don't even know you've got it. So either you've acclimatised to it in a way, you've adjusted the way that your brain thinks as regards to, right, I've pressed the button, that shit must move straight away. But I bet you, if a lot of you people had a no lag system set up side by side, you'd notice the difference straight away. You really would. But it's one of those things that can bug people, and other people it doesn't bug. So it's horses for courses. But that is a fairly straightforward explanation, really, of what video processing lag is as regards to why it does it, and the sort of context of it as regards to, you know, what it actually means. Frame delay, 2 frame delay, 3, 4, 5 frame delay, or whatever. I mean, a 5 frame delay of video would be pretty massive, and you'd notice that would be literally 5 refreshes of the video on the screen that you would actually lose between you making a movement on your controller and the video being processed onto the screen. 5 frames is pretty massive. But obviously that would be perhaps worst case scenario. But where all this fits in is, especially in some of the discussions that I've given you guys and reviews of certain scalers, because not only can your TV introduce lag, but also the way that if you actually scale a signal, you know, some of the things that I've shown on my reviews, some of those devices will add lag as well. So on top of your TV lag, you could possibly get 2 sets of lag. So you could quite easily bump it to 4 frames, I would suggest, quite easily. 4 frames of lag. So you have to think about that as well. Now, as regards to how you can minimise it, the easiest way to try and minimise it is to utilise the VGA port on your TV or your monitor. Nearly, well, I say nearly all. I won't say that as a that's a bit of a sweeping statement, but most VGA inputs on TVs and certain monitors will be little to virtually zero processing. A processed image, because that specific input is normally associated with a PC input, you know, which is TV or monitor is irrelevant, and PC signals that are processed, you know, a native resolution. If you send a native resolution from a PC to a TV or a monitor that has processing on its VGA port, you can normally tell. It doesn't look very nice. It really doesn't look very nice. So normally the manufacturers will disable all processing on the VGA port. So VGA is normally the way to go. If you can somehow get a VGA input into your TV from a retro game console, for instance, then that is the preferred method. In all honesty, that is the preferred method. But most TVs are pretty good on their HDMI inputs. Get my words out. Where you've got things like game modes, or gamer modes, or game modes on TVs. If you've got that, turn it on. If a mode exists that's called game mode or gamer mode, turn it on. One of the reasons for that specific mode will be to reduce processing on like the HDMI input. So again, if you want to run through to a modern display on HDMI, then always make sure that you've got the game mode switched on. Now, even some TVs that have that facility may still not be that great at reducing lag or keeping video processing lag to a bare minimum. The setup that I've got downstairs, Sony TV, the one I've recently bought, that has got between 1 and 2 frames of processing lag, which is pretty good, to be fair. But to be honest, I don't really use that facility much downstairs. I don't use the main TV downstairs really for gaming. It's all done here in my office on my PC LCDs, and of course me CRT. So but that specific Sony TV has got pretty good response on it as regards to the lack of processing, even on HDMI ports. On the VGA port, it should be virtually zero. So that's the sort of thing you've got to look at. It's worth doing some intelligent research on any new TV you're going to get, to see what it actually does as regards to processing lag. And normally on the reviews they will have a section about how it deals with video game input and actually what lag there is. On the decent reviews you will see it measured in either frames or milliseconds. So really you want to keep that to bare minimum. Now it also depends on what, if you do use a video processor. I've done plenty of videos to prove that actually using a video processor can vastly enhance the picture you get from a retro console specifically to a modern TV set. And on some of those reviews I have mentioned a bit about processing lag, but never really got into it in great detail. If we take, for instance, the cheap CGA to VGA scaler that I've done some various videos on, it's available on eBay, that adds about 2 frames of lag itself, even on VGA. VGA is irrelevant really, but it processes, because it has to process the signal, it line doubles it. It does effectively give about 2 frames of lag. Now, the fact that that outputs on a VGA port will mean, at least if you've got the right settings on your TV, you should still only have about 2 frames of lag, which, as I said at the start of this, is pretty acceptable, to be honest. So if you turn your game mode on, that'd be absolutely fine. You really do have to look at the whole picture really, as regards to whether you've got any processors in between your console and your TV set, and what type of processing lag that they create. For instance, something like an XRGB 3 in its B1 scanline mode, it will give you virtually no additional processing lag. It's less than a frame, I think, of lag, less than a frame. So, and because that outputs as well to VGA, So you stick that into your TV, and assuming your TV hasn't got any additional processing on VGA, which again it shouldn't do, it means you get the virtually lag-free processor between your retro console and your TV. So it all depends on how sensitive you really are to lag, processing lag, and also what type of games you play. But you really do need to look at the whole picture, and it is worth looking into things to do with processing lag. Like I said, there are ways that you can minimise it to virtually nothing, but of course all this costs money to buy additional video processors, but there's more to buying a video processor, or more an advantage to buying a video processor than just giving you a cleaner image. It can actually reduce or negate any video processing lag depending on what type of video processor you choose. And this is something that I will actually highlight as I go through and do my sort of one-off special on video scalers, you know, the sort of top 10. Well, not my top 10, I've probably got 10 of them, but certainly all the video scalers I've got, I'll go through each one of them and I will pick out the best of the ones I've got and reasons why, and you know, but I will actually discuss there in video lag to give you guys a bit of context there about which ones are better at processing video than others as regards to reducing video processing lag. So yeah, so it's potentially a bit of a minefield, but I hope that I've given you guys a bit more sort of information as regards to what it all means, and that there are ways that you can get around it, or at least minimise or reduce it. So yeah, hope you find it interesting. Speak to you again soon, guys.